There are games of T20 when something bad happens and you have to go through it kind of, well, I suppose ball by ball. And there are games of T20 where something bad happens and you lose and you have to ignore it. And that's quite tough because that's not really the way that teams go about things. The one thing I've learned is how good professionals are at losing, because they lose a lot, which means that they generally take out things from games that they need to.
This is the last knock. My dad refuses to tell me what this means.
You might have heard me talk about this before, the phrase throwaway game. Well, for the Netherlands, this is a throwaway game. And I want to explain what that means for the Netherlands, but also for other teams when I just casually throw that out. Can you throw out a throwaway game? I'm not sure, but I have now. So as someone who does analysis, obviously, and has worked with teams a lot, there's quite often when you actually have to go through sort of step by step what has happened with the game and how it might help the team. Let's look at the Netherlands in this particular game. They lost this game because they lost 4 wickets in 4 balls to Campher. I'm not sure what you can really analyze out of that, but I'm going to try and explain why you can't analyze it rather than just saying it nonsensically, rather than just throwing it out there. So Ackermann was facing Campher, and Campher was bowling everywhere. He's not a particularly fast bowler, but he just couldn't get his radar right, and he was spraying the ball around, and he's very lucky to actually bowl back-to-back overs. And one of the balls he sprayed was to Ackermann. Now, Ackermann is a really, really good bat, and has now played in a few leagues around the world, and is a talented player. And Campher sprayed one of those balls at him, and it went down the leg side, and Campher really appealed. The rest of Ireland, not so much. It was one of those appeals from the rest of the guys where they were appealing because they thought the umpire might not give it as a wide if they did. But Campher was sure that there was an edge there, and they reviewed it, and of course, he was right. And Ackermann was out, caught down the leg side, or as I like to call it, sodomized down the leg side. So there's not a lot that Ackermann can learn about this. It was a terrible ball down the leg side. Of course, he played a shot at it. If he got any bat on it, he might have been able to hit it for 4. It makes sense that he did that. And so there's nothing for him to learn or Holland to worry about at all from this particular dismissal. The next dismissal was Ryan ten Doeschate. The next wicket was Ryan ten Doeschate. And I think at this stage, Ryan ten Doeschate, well, I mean, he's the second oldest player in this tournament, and he's one of the oldest professional players, around in cricket. Everyone kind of knows everything about him. Like, we know specifically that when he comes in, and this would be on the analysis of pretty much every team, that you try and bowl full and straight and hope that he falls over the ball a little bit. And of course, that's what Campher did here. He went full and straight, and Ryan ten Doeschate missed the ball. 2 wickets in 2 balls at this stage. But what's in that for Holland? Ten Doeschate is so old and is actually pretty much retired from almost every other format of cricket at the moment. It doesn't really matter. There's nothing he can learn. There's nothing that anyone can help him with. And also, he knows that he sometimes goes out from full and straight balls. If he could have fixed that by now, he would have fixed it by now. And even if Ryan ten Doeschate didn't know at all that this was a thing, he's not going to be able to change it now, is he? I mean, he's had his whole career to be able to change. And then you've got Scott Edwards going out next ball. Now, Scott Edwards is a little bit younger, and he does obviously have some flaws to his game. He's quite an unconventional player anyway, but again, he was first ball. Maybe you can look at the fact of full and straight balls, but half the time I've seen Scott Edwards, he's been flipping them back over his head. So I'm not sure there's that much to be learnt there again. And then at number 7 was Roelof van der Merwe, who has played for South Africa, who has played in the IPL, who's played in lots of leagues. He's actually probably one of the better T20 players over the last decade. It's just that people haven't really noticed it for some reason. He's a very good bat and obviously can bowl, and there aren't that many players like him out there, and yet he doesn't quite get the respect he should. If you remember back to when he first started playing for South Africa, he actually used to try and hit every ball for 6, which was also awesome. He's not really that player anymore. Now he's more of an accumulator through the middle with a little bit of power when he needs it later on. He's an incredible player. And I say all this because he's an incredible player for an associate team to have at number 7. Think of the depth that the Netherlands have to be able to bring him in at number 7. And what happened here? He got a half volley outside off stump, and he tried to hit it away and dragged it back onto his stumps. Again, there's a lot there that kind of is normal cricket. What T20 player, when they say a half volley outside of a stump, is not going to try and hit it away, even if you've just had a hat trick happen? If you see a ball like that, it's a low risk ball. You think, chances are you're not going to get an edge to it because it's so full. No one's thinking really that they're going to be able to drag it back on. And even if you do get an inside edge, the chances of it coming back on the stumps are pretty low. If Roelof was to play that shot 100 times, maybe 5 out of the 100, he would drag the ball back onto the stumps. It's just not something that would happen. And so there you have it. The Netherlands lost 4 wickets in 4 balls and essentially lost the game. They didn't do a lot wrong. And it's hard to tell that because it looks like panic and it looks like they weren't handling the moment and all those sorts of things that you will hear. Someone will call them chokers. All those sorts of things that people will say. I can understand why people say that. But sometimes you just lose 4 wickets in 4 balls. It's that kind of format. And once you do, there's no coming back. You can lose 4 wickets in 4 balls in a test match and still have a chance, even a one-day game. You lose them in the middle of a T20 game, and chances are that you're just gone. If you're really trying to analyze this game for the Dutch, I think that the top of the order is something that I thought was much more interesting. The slow start, chewing up a lot of dot balls. Googlies, quarter seamer, carom, dukes, back of the hand, red, leg cutters, teesra, pink, knuckle, white, slider, seed, heavy, bounces, cherry, length, pill, off cutters, old, crimson traveller, kookaburra, hard, outswing, second new, off spin, arm, SG, split finger, shiny, leg spin, soft, new, yorkers, flippers, wrong uns, long hops, reverse swing, half volley, and third new. These are just some of the names we use for balls in cricket. Well, Manscaped wants you to be as proud of your balls as you are of the ones delivered by your favourite cricketer. Manscaped just launched their 4th generation trimmer, the Lawnmower 4.0. Join over 2 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped with this exclusive offer, 20% off and free worldwide shipping. Insert the code REDINKA at manscaped.com. I've actually used this, not just something that I'm hawking for fun, and I got to admit, I thought it was a bit silly, and then I went down there, and it was exceptional. I honestly feel I could bowl outswing with one nut and inswing with the other. So get 20% off and free worldwide shipping with the code REDINKA at manscaped.com. Manscaped, for the man who cares about his balls as much as the ones out in the middle. Dowd has gone on to top scorer in this game, but he probably didn't help as much as he could have. And he's a very good player as well, so I don't think it's the end of the world that he's done that. The truth is that sometimes these random things just happen in T20 cricket. It's why it's very hard to consistently win the way that teams do in one-day cricket sometimes, or even in Test cricket. It's because in T20 cricket, even just a couple of moments of madness can just completely change the way the game is going. There have been 48,000 overs bowled in T20 cricket over the last 2 years. There's been one occasion when there's been 5 wickets in an over. Shout out to the Haryana Karnataka crew. And this over constitutes the 12th time that 4 wickets have gone in an over. And I am counting runouts in that as well. Not all of those will just be bowlers' wickets like this was. They all also won't be 4 wickets in 4 balls like this was. My point is, this does not happen very often. And not only does it not happen very often, this is the earliest time in the last 2 years that 4 wickets have fallen in an over. Generally, this happens 20th over, 19th, 18th, maybe towards the death. It's very rare for a team to lose this many wickets early on. This is a rare freak event. There's no other way to look at it. You can blame the Dutch for not having one of their batters just work out how to defend. You could say that they didn't handle the pressure of the occasion. There's many different things that you can say about this, but basically, this is a freak event. This doesn't happen. This isn't World Cup pressure or because Curtis Campher was an incredible bowler. He was barely hitting the pitch at times in this innings. It was just that they lost a lot of wickets in a row, and that very rarely happens, but it did. Had this been from a very fast bowler, you'd say, wow, it's, an associate team struggling against fast bowlers. But to be fair, the Dutch are probably used to them. They have probably the fastest bowling attack that any associate team's ever had, used to facing them in the nets, if nothing else. So I don't think it was anything to do with that. Also, Curtis Campher is not a very fast bowler. If it was like a leg spinner or a left arm wrist spinner or even, a particular kind of finger spinner or mystery spinner, I suppose, you go, oh, well, they didn't pick the ball, they didn't understand it, or they're not used to this kind of bowling. I mean, Curtis Campher is a medium fast, maybe, fast medium on a good day bowler. Right arm. They've been facing this kind of bowler their whole life. Ryan Tentascanta has basically probably faced about 50,000 balls from just this kind of bowler, whether it be in the nets or in a match, over and over and over again in his life. There was absolutely nothing remarkable about the bowling. The first ball was not particularly good. The fourth ball was not particularly good. The other 2 balls were good. They were fine. But again, they were not unplayable. It wasn't Wackar Younis, was it? It wasn't Malcolm Marshall. It wasn't Sydney Barnes. It was just, a pretty bog standard right arm seam bowler coming in and having his way. And Curtis Campher will be talking about this for the rest of his life. He's not a particularly well-known cricketer at the moment. I saw some people upset that an Australian website called him unknown cricketer, but he really hasn't played that much so far. He's 22. This was his 34th professional game. The Dutch wouldn't have planned much for him, but they also would have seen enough of him to know what they needed to know. They weren't caught by surprise or anything like that. It was one of those things that happened. And it's not like Campher's known for taking like big bags of wickets or anything like that. He's, just a pretty standard sort of change bowler. He's an all-rounder, really. In fact, he's probably a much better bat than he is a bowler. It's just that his bowling is quite handy. It's incredible that Andy Balboni actually threw him the ball again. As I said, he wasn't bowling well, and he's not a spectacular bowling talent. Before that spell today, he'd taken 26 professional wickets. Then he took 27, 28, 29, 30, like all in a row. And they weren't bad batters as well. Like, he'll be talking about this forever. He could talk about this forever. But for Netherlands, this is a throwaway game. There is nothing to be learned. There is nothing to be gained from this. Sometimes you just have a shit day in T20 cricket. Not if you're Curtis Campher. If you're Curtis Campher, you might have had the greatest day of your life. But for everyone in orange, or in this case, kind of red shirts, aren't they? You just got to forget about it and move on. The problem, of course, for the Netherlands is that this is such a short tournament. And losing a game this badly is a net run rate problem and a confidence problem and an everything problem. But 4 wickets in 4 balls, that's not their problem. It's more their reality. But losing 4 wickets in 4 balls, it's not really a problem that they have as cricketers. It's just like a thing that happened. And now they just have to throw it away and hope they win their next 2 games.